Okay.
I don't know if it will be this. It might be a little change. I can't remember it word for word, but I can be creative again and come up with the same thing. Just might
Yeah.
not be word for word, but
Okay.
this is a
Because it
story of a beautiful. Is it recording? Yeah.
yes.
This is a story of a. This is a beautiful story of a princess named Kristy of the land of Saint Helen, and story of a prince. So Prince Jamie of Calamity Falls, and she she was a Prince Kristy was a princess that I'd never seen before. She was very delicate and very gentle by nature, and she had a very beautiful heart. And everybody in the village of St. Helens was very humbled by her presence and very impressed. And there was and Prince Jamie was from a village, Calamity Falls, in a very far away. And everybody knew him as a very humble man. And one of the things of the Prince Kristy that everybody knew was she had a very funny sense of humor. She was very silly. She was very unique in nature. And everybody knew Prince Jamie was very funny and humorous in nature as well. And Princess Kristy said one day, "Oh dear Lord, please bring me a prince to come and take my hand in marriage. And so I will be happy." And the Lord had heard her prayers. And then Prince Jamie said, "Oh dear Lord, please out there, Lord, please bring me a beautiful princess that I shall marry and live happily ever after." So the Lord heard their prayers, and he started going to work. And one day, even though they were far away, they came across each other on a beautiful thing called Christian dating for free. And no one had ever heard that before, because they were trying to figure out, how does this work? There's no electricity, because we still cook with fire and we live in caves. But they were very impressed by how electricity was able to run this thing called a computer. Anyways, Princess Kristy and Prince Jamie came across each other on the Christian dating site. And they were very impressed with each other. And Princess Kristy noticed one thing about Prince Jamie, and that he was looking for someone for unconditional love. And that's when Princess Kristy's interest was very sparked and very intrigued by this fine young fellow. "Oh, this fine young fellow," she said. "He's very interested in unconditional love. I must seek him." And then Prince Jamie came across her profile and said, "Oh, out there. Oh, wow, this is the most beautiful princess in all the land. I must marry her." So they started chatting through this thing called the online internet. And no one had ever seen this online internet before, because they're still trying to figure out how they were getting electricity, because they're still living in caves. And anyways, they one day they decided that they wanted to meet each other. So Prince Jamie said, "I cannot come because my horse is resting. I shall take a train to your village and meet you and your family." So he rested his beautiful white horse named Gargabel, and he took a train up to St. Helen to meet his future princess. And he got off the train in this little place, St. Helen, and it was a very small village. Everybody knew everybody. And he got off the train, and he came across a fine lad named Mr. Brian Sokol of the land. And he said, "Hi there, Mr. Brian Sokol. I must tell you a funny joke." And he told him a funny joke, and Mr. Brian said, I like you, Mr. Jamie. I want you to meet my sister. But you must get past my father, Mr. King Tony. He is the king of all the land." And so the prince said, "I want to meet your father and ask for his daughter's hand in marriage. So he went and he met Mr. Tony, and Mr. Tony was a humble man. He was the king of kings in the village of St. Helen, and he was very humble, very beautiful man. And he said, Mr. Tony, may I take your daughter's hand in marriage? And he said, well, I don't know. I must know you first, sir. And so he sent him a video that no one ever had seen before, because they're still trying to figure out, how's he getting electricity? We still live in caves. Anyways, he did him a beautiful video telling Mr. King Tony all about him. And Mr. King Tony was very impressed by this unconditional love that he had for his daughter. And King Tony said, yes, before I let you marry my daughter, you must know that she has this thing called arthritis. And he said, and the prince said, oh, well, I love your daughter. I will get great knowledge on arthritis so I could take care of her in a very delicate, gentle, and unconditional love way. And King Tony was very impressed, and he said, yes, Mr. Prince Jamie of Calamity Falls, you may marry my daughter. And so the prince was very happy, and he went into the princess's room and said, hi there, Princess Kristy. We shall go to this place called Walmart. And so they went to Walmart, and the prince said, hello there, everybody. Can I have your attention? I have an announcement. I must ask my princess a very important question. And the prince got down on one knee and said, oh, my Princess Kristy, how I love you so. I will provide you unconditional love and take care of your delicate nature and love you forever. And she was very impressed as a tear rolled down her eye. And he said, will you marry me, my Princess Kristy? And she said, yes, I will marry you, Prince. I love you unconditionally too. And so they were paired. They said, and the prince said, great. We must prepare for the great wedding in the King Castle of 214 North 14th Street in the backyard. And that's where we will marry and start building our kingdom on the 14th Street of the land of St. Helen. And so they prepared for the beautiful wedding, and all of the people of the Sokol household showed up for the wedding, and it was a very beautiful wedding. It was a July 4th, and it was a beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky, and there was a gentle breeze. And they stood before each other in front of the Sokol kingdom of this little village of St. Helen, and they exchanged their vows. And Prince Jamie spoke his vows first, and everybody listened, and they were so impressed by how much he loved the great Princess Kristy. And Prince Kristy was so happy with the words that he spoke that she had tears rolling down her eyes. And then Princess Kristy started to read her vows, and the prince, he was shook. He'd never heard such beautiful things before. He'd never heard such amazing words coming from such a beautiful, gentle lady. And he fell in love with her even more on that beautiful day. And as they exchanged their vows, they took each other's hand, and they were married under God, and they had their first kiss, which shook the ground throughout the land of St. Helens. And then everybody was so happy. Everybody was cheering. It was a beautiful day of a beautiful ceremony. And then Prince Jamie of Calamity Falls and Princess Kristy of St. Helens were married happily ever after. And he took her to his beautiful white horse and helped her on the horse. And they rode off into the sunset happily ever after.
And we had the honeymoon. And then what happened? We went out into the village, and we went like this to the people walking down the street. And people thought that we was weird, and they was like, what is going on? What is these people doing? So we go, we are married now. We are married. We are Gomez and Morticia. Woo!
Yeah, your story, Courtney.
And then Sassy came along and she said, may I help you make dinner? And we said, yes, as long as Happy Jay can help too. And so Sassy and Happy Jay, they made dinner for us for our wedding night and our honeymoon. And they said, okay, you kids have fun now. You waited long time. You waited long time for kissing. Go now. That was very sweet. That was 10 minutes, and I'm going to stop it. And that was awesome. Thank you, Jamie. I loved it. It was great.
Oh, you're